Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are learning C programming or want to strengthen your fundamentals, you are in the right place. Today we are covering the top 10 C program that every programmer should know. These are not just random examples, these are the building blocks that will help you understand core concepts and ace your interviews and build real world application. So with this, let's get started. So whether you are a beginner or brushing up your basics, stick around because we are going from simple to more advanced. And if you find this helpful, smash that like button and subscribe for more programming content. So let's dive in. So let's start with the first problem, which is hello world, right? Uh, Starting with the classic hello world, I know that you are thinking, really, that's too basic. But hear me out. This program teaches you the fundamental structure of every C program, right? So let's get started. uh, stdio.h. 'and return 0, which indicates, so this is our first program. Let's run it. You see hello world. So let's break it down. That will gives you the more clear idea like what this program is actually doing, because as a beginner you should actually know what these statements, whatever you are writing, is mean, right? So first we included the standard input output library. This gives us access to printf and other functions that we use in our program. Then we have main function. Then we have our main function. The entry point of every C program, we print our message and return 0, indicate the successful execution, right? So see, simple, but it teaches you about library functions, program flow, and every C program journey starts here. Even if you learn other programming languages, the first program which everyone teaches you is the hello world, like how to actually print hello world in that particular programming language, right? So this one is the first problem. So let's move to the second part, the second problem, right? So the second problem is going to be uh, the summation of two number, right? So let's write that one also. Now we are going to add two numbers. This what the importance of this particular program is, it introduces variable data types and user input, right? So what we do, uh, this is the that's why I mentioned that these are the statement which you use on your program. You should know why you are using it and what's the purpose of it, right? That will actually gives you the clear understanding of, right? Now as I told you that we use printf statement and other statements from the standard library which we have included over here, right? So now we use printf we generally use for printing some message on console, right? So same, what we are doing over here is we are taking input from the user, right, and adding up and showing their submission on the console, right? So how we can achieve it, let's get start. Let's printf enter first number, right? And then scanf %d slash num1. I'll explain you what scanf represent over here. Let's first complete the second number, and then again scanf, which is %d and %num2, right? And after that simply we have declared a third variable where we are storing the summation num1 plus num2, and once it is done we are just simply printing the sum, right, which is slash n, and at the end we are returning 0. That indicates that the successful execution, right? Let's execute it, right? So it is asking us to enter the first number. Let's say the first number is 4, the second number is 5. You see the sum is 9. So how we actually achieve it? So this is the piece of code which is actually helping us to achieve is like, so here we are declaring integer variables, right? We are using integer variable because we are summing the value of those, like using scanf to get user input, right? We are using scanf in such scenario to take the user input. Notice that ampersand uh, that crucial for scanf and performing a basic arithmetic operation, right? So this program is your gateway to understand variable input output, right? So as you see, from where we are actually using these functions, from this standard type library, from where we are using this, right? Printf generally we use to actually print the message on the console. Scanf help us to actually take a user input, right? And we have a different identifiers which we use, just like %d we use for integer value, percent you can say percent f used for float values, percent s used for strings. So there are a lot of many, you can explore it on the like Google and other web for more information, follow more documentation, right? So this is the second problem where we are summing the two values, where we learn how to add two numbers, how to declare variables, and how to take the input from the user, right? So this is the second problem. Let's move towards the third problem, and the third problem is, just move it over here. The third problem is swap of two numbers, right? So how do we swap two numbers, right? So this is a classical interview problem. In most of the time they ask you to swap two numbers. There are various ways to come up with the solution of this particular, right? So it teaches you about temporary variable and algorithm thinking, and it is really important. There are actually multiple ways to do this. Let me show you the standard approach, right? So let's start writing. Let's say I have declared a variable 5, then 10, and then temp, right? I'm printing before the values and after the values, like before what the value of the variables and after swapping what the value of the variables, right? So that will actually gives you the clear idea what exactly is going on. So before swap, a is equal to %d, b is equal to %d, a and b. So for that, right, and now we are swapping, and how the swap logic is working, right? So we simply do, we are storing our value of a is into a temporary variable, we're assigning b to a, right? Now what's the state? Now a is equal to b, which means the a and b are both containing the same values because we have assigned the value of b to a, right? Now what we are doing, we are assigning b temp. What is temp? Temp contains the actual value of, like, actual value of a, which means now a contains the value of previous b and now b contains the value of previous a, right? So that's how we perform the swapping of two number. Now after swap, a is equal to %d and b is equal to %d. Let's print their values, and don't forget to return 0, that indicates the successful execution. Let's run it. Let's put /n over here for, yeah, if you see previously the value of a is 5 and the value of b is 10, but after value a become 10 and value b become 5, which means we are successfully able to like swap the values of two variables. And how we achieve it? First we stored the value of a into temporary variable, now which means temp contains the value of a, which is 5. Then the value of a become 10 because we assigned the value of b to 10, b to a, and then we assign the value of temporary variable which contains the value of a into b. That's how we are able to like swap two numbers. And you can also modify this program little bit while taking the input from the user, because I already told you in the previous program how to take input, but in this program I have taken variables by my own and defined the variable in at the compile time, right? So that is it about the third problem. Like we use a temporary variable to hold one value which we swap, but here is bonus, you can also do it without a temp variable using arithmetic or a XOR operation. Pretty neat, right? So try by your own self, take input from the user, do things by your own, and let's move to another problem. Now we are at the fourth problem. What's the fourth problem is? The fourth problem is, let's write it over here. The name is check if the number is even or odd, right? So let's start this one. Checking if a number is even or odd. This teaches you about conditional statements and the module operator, right? So let's write the code from scratch, because I'm writing everything here so that you actually got to know how things are actually working and how to actually come up with the solution of such problem. So I have declared a num variable and I'm taking an input from the user, right? Try to take input from the user. That will actually gives you a clear understanding of the function which we are using over here, right? Then scanf, as you know, in order to take input we do ampersand of num. And now what we do, if num mod 2 is equal to 0, if this is the case, which means given number is even, percent d is even, sorry for that, even slash n. And if it is not the case, like if the remainder is not equal to 0, which means is not even, right? So this is the simple piece of code, and if we execute it asking us to enter a number, right? So let's say I have entered a 12 is even. As you know, if you divide a mod, take a mod of 12 with 2, then the remainder becomes 0, then it's an even number. And what if I change, if I put any other number, let's say 35, which is not an even number. 35 is not an even number. As you see, we are getting a correct output. So this is it. So this module operator, the percentage sign, give us the remainder. This one is give us the remainder divided by 2 has, right? If the number is have like divided by 2 has no remainder, it's simply even. Simple logic, but you will see if else statement constantly in programming. So make sure to understand the working of them so that you are actually able to implement it in upcoming problems, right? So this is the fourth problem. Now move to our fifth problem. Halfway there, number 6, the factorial of number. A real interesting problem, right? So what is it? Factorial of number, right? So let's write it a little bit clearly. So this introduces loops and iterative thinking, right? So let's start. We are taking num, as we are also going to take it from the user, and then we are using it long. I will tell you why I have taken an unsigned long, because while calculating the factorial, right? So what happens, the value increases by multiplying it, like exponentially, you can say. So in such scenario, integer is not able to handle the values which we calculate. So in such scenario, we generally use the factorial, the long, that will actually help us to actually store those variables. Now we run our loop from I is equal to 1 to I less than equal to n I plus plus. Storing the fact inside the factorial is multiply it by I. Then now simply printf the value of factorial of percent d is equal to percent llu slash n num factorial, and then simply return it. So first we should understand that how the factorial is working, like how to calculate a factorial of any particular number. Let's say if I say you 3, so what's the factorial of 3 is, which is 3 multiplied 2 multiply 1, right? So this is the factorial of a number, and what I am doing over here is from 1 to running to that particular number, I'm starting from here to here and simply multiplying that values to the factorial and storing the result, right? So that's how, if we calculate, then it become 6, which is the factorial of 3, right? So this is what we are doing over here. And talking about why I have taken this, because sometime when we are dealing with a large number, right? Let's say your value is 10 to the power 9. Let's say your current value is this. So in order to calculate the factorial of it, it gives you a really long answer, right? So you should have some variable to actually store that result, right? So So right, so in such scenario we use, and notice we are using for loop here to multiply numbers sequentially. We also handle edge cases, right? We should also have to handle edge cases. For, let's say if the given number is 0, then it doesn't make sense to actually calculate the answer, right? So this is it for our fifth program. Not yeah, for the fifth program. Now let's move to the sixth one, uh, the Fibonacci series. This is everywhere in nature, mathematics, and definitely in coding interviews, right? So let's move to that particular part. So what it is, Fibo Fibonacci series. So let's write, and you are going to use Fibonacci series in multiple places. Like the Fibonacci series, this is everywhere when you are actually working with like some advanced data structure like dynamic programming, recursion. In such scenario, the first problem which you are tackling is Fibonacci series. But in this video, I'm going to teach you it with the iterative solution, not with a recursion solution, right? So let's write. Let's take few variables. T1 is equal to 0. Let first I will tell you what the like okay next term is equal to 0. What the Fibonacci series is actually, right? Instead of writing like sorry for that. So what exactly the Fibonacci series is look like? Fibonacci series is nothing but the sum of previous two values, right? We form the next value, which means our Fibonacci series start from 0 to 1, and then the another is the sum of previous two values, which is 0 plus 1, it's 1. Then again the previous two values, 1 plus 1 is 2, then 2 plus 1 is 3, then 2 plus 3 is 5, right? So this is the way our Fibonacci series is actually increasing. So what we just have to achieve this particular case, if someone presses a particular number, let's say 5, so till 5, how what's the Fibonacci series look like? So that's what we have to print over here, right? So let's get started. So for that I initially defined a variables. As you say, these two are the constant because we need two variable to find the third one, right? So that's why I already declared their values, and now we just have to like take an input from the user. Printf enter the number of terms. Scanf you probably going to use for at a lot of time, so make sure to understand it, not cram it, right? Fibonacci series %d t1 t2. Now we are running a loop from 3. Why? Because we already print first two values. Now we are running it from 3 instead of taking, because I already declared it. Then I is less than equal to n I plus plus, and I will already tell you that in order to calculate the next value we use the previous two values, which means the next term should be t1 plus t2, which gives us the third value. We simply print it with the comma. That will look better when we see the console. And right, and now what we did, we able to find this sequence, right? Now we, in the next term, we have the 1, which is the third the value of the sequence, the third value of the sequence, right? But now we have to move further. So what we have to do, we just have to change the values of the variables, which means now previously t1 contains 0, t2 contains 1, but it's coming, and now t3 contains t1 plus t2, right? Now this is the case, but now we have to move further. And what's the definition of the Fibonacci sequence? Sum of previous two values, right? So now just have to replace t1 with t2, so that now my t1 pointed to it, now t2 points to t3, so that t2 will point to this, so that we are able to form the next term, right? So that's what we have to do. Replace t1 with t2, replace t2 with t3. I don't know what is happening with t3. right? Not we have not t3, we just have to use next term as a variable which I have taken, right? So after that, just printf slash n, and after that just simply returning 0, right? For the successful execution, we should keep it in your mind whenever you're writing a program, right? So let's execute. For example, 1 2 3 4 5 6, let's say I enter 6. You see the same sequence which I have wrote over here is for the 6, how many sequence, like what's the values are going to be in the Fibonacci sequence, right? So these are the value which are going to be in the Fibonacci sequence. So this is the sequence, and you are also going to use it when you are working with recursions and DP problem, right? This one is the first problem which everyone teaches you, right? So each number is the sum of the previous two. We are tracking multiple variables and updating them in sequence. This teaches you about sequence generation and variable management in loops and how to actually work with them, right? So this is it for the sixth problem. Now come towards the seventh problem, and what it is, let's first remove this one. Now the sixth problem is to check prime numbers, which is another classic problem, because it used in many such big problems where we are actually dealing with some contest or dealing with some online assessments. So make sure to understand it properly. Now one thing which we are over, right? So one thing we should understand it, in every program I am taking input from the user, so make sure to use it. That will make your habit to actually work with them. Now what I have done is, like, I'm just taking input from the user, like enter the number, then taking, as you know how to take it, using scanf. So I have already taken a number, already taken an input from the user. Now I have to check if the current number is prime or not. So what is the prime number? First of all, prime number is a number which is divisible by 1 and itself, right? If any number satisfies this condition, that means the number is a prime number. For example, if I say 2 is a prime number, yes, 2 is divisible by 1 and 2 is divisible by itself, right? But what if I say 4 is prime number? Not. Why? Because 4 is divisible by 2, 1, 2, 4, which means we have 3 divisor. So we have to check if there is a number which only have 2 divisor, right? So we already get an idea like how to actually work with them. So we just check if a number have 2 divisor, then it is then it is only a prime number, otherwise it is not. Then take a count variable, then run a loop from 1 to less than equal to that particular number which we have taken. It is number, right? And if we just check if num mod I is equal to 0, then we simply increment the value of count, right? If count is equal to, which means the number is prime number, number is prime, else number is not prime. So this is the condition which I already told you, that because if we found only 2 divisor, that means the number is prime number, otherwise it is not a prime number. So let's return 0 for the indicating for the successful execution, and let's try to run it. Yeah, so I already told you that 2 is prime number, 3 is prime number, but 4 is not. Let's enter 4. Number is not a prime number because it has 3 divisor, right? And what if I enter 2 over here? Got it, number is prime number because it only have 2 divisor, right? So this is the logic which we have used over here. Is what is the logic? We just divided the number with the from 1 to 1 2 3 4, right? And for every number I'm just dividing it by the value and checking if it is divisible by that number, then I'm just incrementing the count. If it is 2, which means the number is prime, otherwise it's not a prime number, right? So this is the logic which we use over here. Notice we only check up to this, number if it is divisible by or not, right? So this is the classical problem which you are actually going to use in upcoming problem, right? So this is it for our sixth problem. Now move to our seventh problem, and what it is, now we are moving towards arrays, right? So let's get started. So first I just remove it, and for the array I already written a code, and I'm just copying it from there. Right, I just copy the code from there because it saves a lot of time, otherwise the video become too long. And what I'm doing over here is I'm just calculating the summation of the array elements and taking the average of them, right? What is an array? Array is nothing but it is a way to store a similar kind of value, instead of taking like, if let's say you want to store 10 different variables, so instead of taking 10 different variables, you can simply create an array which is of size 10, which store all the value. And make sure one thing, that array only stores similar kind of value, like you cannot store integer with string, right? So this is the definition, or this is the, you can say, specialty of the array. And another thing is that it stores values in continuous manner, which you can access through indices. For example, let's say if array has element 1 2 3 4, then indices always start from 0, which means let's write it for the better understanding. 0 1 2 3, right? So indices always start from the 0, so you can access it from 0. And if we want to access a particular value, let's say you want to access a value at a second index, then how you can access? You just simply do it like this, second index, then you simply able to access it. And how we can do it with a loop? So let's see the problem. Let's see the problem which we have written. I'm just taking the number of elements which we want to store. First I have created an array which initially has a size of 100, and taking an n for the length, I for iteration, sum for summation, and float for average. Because we are also going to calculate an average value, right? After that I'm just taking an input from the user to ask how many number you want in the array, right? And after that I'm just wanting what is the element going to be at that particular position, running a loop from 1 to n, storing that value inside the array, and see how to actually be, because you see, in order to store the single value, we simply do it like this, %d and the ampersand of that particular value, right? But here we are dealing with arrays, so we are going one by one to every element. So for that we are using ARR of I, and after that, when we're done with this like taking input, at the same time we are calculating the summation, because we already stored the value, and I'm using that particular value to actually form the summation, right? Once it is done, because you see how we are able to do it just by one loop and just calculating this by this particular formula, you can see. After that we are calculating the average. You know how to calculate the average, which is total summation divided by number of summation, number of the length, which you can say, right? So that's how we are actually calculating the average. After that we are just simply printing the sum and also printing the average. So this is the piece of code which we are using over here. Let's run it to actually understand what is going on. Let's say I want 4 number of elements, 1 2 3 4. If you see, the summation is 10 and average is 2.50. So this is actually how things are actually working over here, right? It is really easy, and you are going to use arrays in lot different places, not in just your coding interviews, but also when you are working in the company. So you are actually working on real world problems or projects. So these are the fundamental concepts which you are going to use, right? So this is it for the 7th problem. Now move to the 10th problem, which is what it is. Let's see. Now the 10th problem is string operations. After array, the another important thing is string. So I have also copied the code which I have already written just to save a time. Let's copy it over from here to here. So this is the code which I have written over here and now let's understand. We are using string library function, right? So we are using a string library in order to perform the operation. Library function, manipulating characters and understanding null terminator. String handling is everywhere, from parsing data to text processing. Master this and you are gold, right? So you are good to go. Now we have created a character array because we don't have we use character array to actually work with strings, right? And what we are doing over here is we are taking input from the user, reversing that string and printing it the value, right? What the original string is look like, what the reverse values look like, and what's the length, and how to calculate the length, the number of characters the strings contain. For example, if I talked about code, so how many characters it contains? It contains 4 characters. So the length of the strings become 4, right? So this is what we are going to do over here is, so first what we are doing, taking a string as an input, and we are taking this to actually work with strings. After that, we are removing if there is any new line character, because when we are working with it, there is always the new line character at the end of the string. So that's why we are just removing that, and we're calculating the length. We have a inbuilt function, and let's say if you want to calculate the length of the string, then use loop, iterate over the characters, and then count. This is your homework. Learn how to do it. That will actually gives you the understanding of string as well as the understanding of loop as well, right? And after that, we are just reversing the string, and what we are doing it, we are storing the last character inside the first character. What it is, for example, let's say your string is CODE, right? And what you are doing over here is, we are storing E inside the first, then D, then O, and then C. So this is what we are doing over here is, we are just storing the last value inside the first value of reverse I, such that we want to reverse the string, right? And after that, in the end, we are just doing it null, because you know that after the ending of every string there is a null value. And after that, we are just simply printing what's the original values look like, what's the reverse values look like, and what's the length of the array, right? So this is it for the program. Let's run it and understand how things are working. Let's say write code. You see the original value is code, and after reverse it become this. And what's the length? 4, which I already told you that what is going to be. Let's run it for the another time, and let's type program. You see this length becomes 7, the original is still same, and the reverse string is this. So this one is our, you can say, our 9th problem. Now move to the final problem, and this will gives you an understanding of how to actually work with the variables, conditional statements, right? So let's move to the last one. I have already copied that because it's little bit longer, so let's copy it from here. Let's see what the program is looking like. And finally, number 10, a calculator using functions. This brings together everything we learned: functions, control, structures, user input, and module programming, right? So let's see what the program is teaching us. So here what we have done, we have created an operator which gives us which operation we have to perform, created a variables for numbers, like we are taking 2 numbers as an input from the user and storing the result, right? So first we are asking it like what exactly the operation you want to perform, right? And after that, let's say he want plus, and after that we are asking please enter the number. And then we have switch statement which actually help us for performing conditional statements when we are dealing with multiple cases. Instead of writing multiple if, it is better to use switch statement, right? And after that, we are just checking if the selected choice of the user is plus, negative, multiplication, or division, right? Whatever it is, then we have created a function for them. For everyone we have created a functions. What the function is nothing but a piece of code that will actually help you to deal with the repetitive tasks, so that you can use it whenever you want. So for the add, what we are doing it, we are just returning summation. For subtraction, for multiplication. But in case of division, we are handling one edge case, that what if the base 0, then it, if you don't handle it, then it will show you the division by 0 error. So to avoid it, try to think of all the edge cases as well. After that, we're just checking if it is plus, then we are just simply calling add. If it is some subtraction, then call subtract, multiply, division. And if it is not any of the choice, let's say user enter some invalid value, then we simply say invalid operator, right, and returning 1 from here, right? Which means returning 1 indicates that the program doesn't complete successfully. And after that, we're just simply printing the result. Let's see let's say I want to perform a plus and I want to perform 4 4, right? So result is 8, which you see, which is absolutely correct. Let's say try with the multiplication as well. 4 5, you see the answer is also correct, which means everything is working fine. So here what we learn, this is beautiful. We have separate functions for each operations, a switch statement for control flow, error handling for division by zero, and clean module code. This is how you should be thinking about real world programs, breaking them into smaller reusable pieces, right? So this is it about the program which we discussed, and there you have it, the top C program everyone should know. These are not just academic exercise, they teaches you the fundamental concepts you will use in every programming language: variables, loop, condition, functions, arrays, and even strings, right? So I recommended you to actually type these out yourself. Don't just like copy paste. Understanding come from doing. If you want to if you want complete code for all these programs, I will link them in the description below. And what program you add to the list, drop a comment below. And if you found this helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more programming tutorials. I will see you in the next video. Happy coding. Bye bye. Take care.